be their biggest fan? How can you support them? How can you give first and then build trust? Same goes for power partners. It's a slower relationship. It's a little bit like dating. You don't want to just say, hey, let's get married on the first date. I think it's important to just gradually build trust. And I always like to give first before I receive anything.
Welcome to the Process to Profit podcast, where we find out about the key processes and productivity techniques that drive successful service-based businesses. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale, join us as we uncover practical strategies to streamline your operations and help you make more money by boosting your profitability. Let's get started. My guest today is Susie Moon. Susie Moon is the Chief Connection Officer with Susie Moon Consulting. She helps small business owners get in front of their ideal clients through connections, networking, building relationships, and finding speaking opportunities. Susie, thank you so much for being here today. I know I read a little bit of your bio, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about who you are, who you help, where you come from, all of those fun things.
Yeah, I actually am I'm born and raised in Baraboo, Wisconsin, and my family's here. But I've gone and done other things in the world and just landed back here. And I grew up with two entrepreneurs, two small business owners that was our world. We grew up learning about spreadsheets and balance sheets. And my brother and I, always thought, oh, we'll just continue with the family business. But that's his path. And I didn't realize that until I was in my 40s. So I'm a slower learner. I went to the corporate route and tried to follow all the rules and realized I'm not a rule follower. I don't like HR. I mean, I like HR people. I just don't like all the rules that go around HR. So I started my business.
I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's why a lot of us start our businesses. If we don't want to follow the rules and we don't want someone telling us what to do. So how are you helping people now? What is your business? I think you have several, if I remember correctly.
I actually have two main ones, or one main one that I focused on, and that's Susie Moon Consulting. And we're really focusing on visibility and then the connection piece. So either finding people opportunities, getting them out there. I feel like everybody on this planet has a gift that we all need to share with one another. And if we were all sharing that with everyone, we'd all be in a good place. We'd all be happy. We'd be, living the dream. And I want to make sure everybody is uncovering what they're best at and sharing it. So that's like my utmost mission, I guess, in life. And so that's what we help with is visibility. How do you get in front of your ideal audience through building connections? I love people. I think the more sales now that you have, it's because you know somebody. It's because it's not all, those squirrels that you're like, oh, this program would be good for me in this program. But no, it's really about the people. And I think we need to get back to that as a society in general. But I could go off on that as well. So I won't. I'll stop. The other part of our business is the connection. So people call me, the business matchmaker or the chief connection officer, or they say, oh, you're everywhere. You know everybody. And so I just love putting pieces together, like finding the people that are good at things that need to meet other people and just putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. I just like me.
Well, so let's talk a little bit more about that. Why are you so passionate about building those connections, helping people sort of meet each other? What brought you to that?
Yeah, gosh, I didn't realize I was good at this until I started networking and started meeting people in the small business space and uncovering what I was best at. I think it's one of my natural gifts is finding resources, being a sleuth, and finding ways to help others and for the good. I don't do it selfishly. I just really find enjoyment. I love jigsaw puzzles. So I'm also a cryptogram person. I'm one of those geeks that just like, give me something to solve and I want to find the answer. So that's always been my, the way I've operated through corporate and now in my business. And so I'm just I'm just helping people make owning a business so much easier because it's hard. It's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's great that you are so excited and so passionate about it and now able to make it a business for yourself. And as a fellow jigsaw puzzle geek, I totally understand. I love a problem to solve, so I'm right there with you. I get it.
Yeah.
It's funny, this is a tangent, but I was with my mother the other day. We bought a pack of puzzles. It was two 500-piece puzzles, and I was like, "Oh, I can do one of those in a couple hours." And she goes, "What?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, it's just 500 pieces and they're giant. Like, that's like an evening." And she was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Have you ever competed in one of those things, the competitions where you all off? That's like, I
No.
kind of like to try that just to see what would happen. Maybe
I don't know if it would be as enjoyable if it was competitive for me, though. I think competing with myself is kind of enough
that's
competition.
true. I'm probably the same way. I'd get frustrated and have to walk off. No.
Yeah. But anyway,
Yeah.
so you found your passion and you are excited about helping people. And how did you figure out, or how have you come to that conclusion that, networking and who you know kind of helps build your business faster, easier, because we're told by all the gurus that we have to build social media and we have to do all these other things. We have to be posting a million times a day. And, that's what you keep hearing so much of online. So how did you kind of figure out that not the opposite was true, but that a different path was a little bit more effective?
Yeah. Well, it took some time. And I think just simply listening to what other people are saying about you. What are they saying that you're not even noticing? What comes easy to you that they struggle with. Some people don't like to network. Some people would rather, crunch numbers all day. No, thank you. Not this girl. And so really leaning in, I think a lot of coaching, I've had a coach ever since I started my business and even before. And just leaning into what you're truly good at and what's so easy for you that you could turn it into a business that you get paid for. I think that's the key. And sometimes you don't realize that until, you know, down the road when you've tried, X, Y, and Z already. It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because you're explaining my exact sort of path and journey. I started out with leadership coaching because that's what I
Yeah.
had been doing in the corporate world. And then I realized that like I don't really love this. Like I'm okay at it, but I'm not great at it. And then my coach at the time, my business coach at the time was like, "Well, what do you really enjoy doing?" And I was like, "Well, I really enjoy systems and processes and making things work better." And she's like, "Well, then do that." Like people need that in their businesses. So you're exactly right of like having that external coach, that external person to kind of help you figure that out is so key sometimes
Yeah.
to getting on that path of what you really enjoy doing.
Yeah. And I'm kind of a big fan of all of the quizzes or the assessments. I've taken the endotype quiz from my friend Laura, and she helped me kind of really dial into that I was kind of a conductor. I like to put the whole orchestra, make sure everybody's kind of playing together, and then Myers-Briggs and DISC and all of those. I was a psych major, so in college,
Mhm.
so that's probably why I get so excited about the human behavioral side of things, why we do the things we do, but it's so hard when you're trying to be introspective on yourself. You just don't realize it, what your gifts are. So it almost takes somebody telling you, "Gosh, I wish you could see the talent you have in this," and then it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, really?" Yeah.
Mhm.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. So, what are some mistakes that you see people making when they're trying to build out their network, trying to build up their referral partnerships? Like, what do you see people doing? And you're like, "Oh, that's really not the way that I would do it." What are you seeing from people?
I see a lot of things like they're going to too many different types of events, and not the right one. I feel like they're not dialing in. Like if they want to really get business out of an event or a group, you have to go to the right ones where your clients are. Don't spend your time just talking to the same friends you have every week or whatever. So really understanding where your audience is, who's buying from you, who do you want to work with, you know, narrowing that in and then realizing, okay, where do these people hang out and how can I make referral partners on other people who will talk about my services when I'm not in the room. So finding those people as well. So I think a lot of people are just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and just hoping it'll stick. using Google ads. They're posting every day on whatever social media channel. That doesn't always build an audience. It doesn't build your following with close relationships. So I really think that piece is missing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because I started out with networking and was doing exactly what you're saying of just like throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. And we kind of met that because I was doing that on LinkedIn where I was just messaging people and trying to network with them and genuinely wanting to make connections, not trying to sell, but
Yeah.
it was just so random that I didn't have a strategy behind it. I didn't have a plan. So, how do you think that people should go about it instead? How do they identify those good referral partners? How do they know that someone is the right fit for them and their business?
I love this question. I've done a couple webinars on it as well. And it's kind of a process. I think there's a before, during, and after a networking event, not just going to the event, showing up and, very transactional. There's a process. You can prepare in advance, having some goals, what to do when you're there, knowing ahead of time who's going to be in the room. Did you do any legwork on it? Did you reach out to the organizer? So there's things you can do around the process of networking, and follow up is so crucial. You can have great conversations, but if nothing happens after that, it's so important to follow up and maintain and nurture those relationships. The other thing, and I lost your question again.
How do you identify
Yeah,
good referral
thank you.
partners?
Thank you. Power partners. I always love talking about this because if you can identify the people that are also serving the clients in a different way. So finding the person that's already in front of who you want to be in front of, and how can you connect yourself with those people? So for instance, we find speaking engagements for a lot of our clients. And if I could find a coach or a website person that helps the exact same audience, I can partner with them and we can refer one another. But it's
Hmm.
also important to have the same vibe, have the values. You don't want to work with anybody that's a little sketch, or you don't trust them, that they're not going to pay, or they're not, you just want good people to surround yourself with. And developing those relationships are just as important as getting the lead and nurturing those. So.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, for the busy entrepreneur, or especially the new entrepreneur, how do you suggest they actually get started with this? Do they just go on LinkedIn and spam a bunch of people? Do they, you know, network with other people that may know people? Like, how do they actually get started with building these referral partnerships?
Yep. I think it's important to find out where your audience is hanging out. So there's so many different platforms. Are they visual people where they're on Instagram? Are they younger? Or maybe they're on TikTok? Finding out where those people are and then kind of going all in to one platform. However, I just had my Facebook account hacked back in October. I
Hmm.
just started it
Mm-hmm.
back up this week, creating a brand new thing because I didn't get the original back. But don't put all of your eggs in one basket either. Have
Mm-hmm.
finding the right people that you want to work with and follow them. Be their biggest fan. How can you support them? How can you give first and then build trust? That same goes for power partners. It's a slower relationship, and it's a little bit like dating. You don't want to just say, "Hey, let's get married" on the first date. So I think it's important to just gradually build trust. And I always like to give first before I receive anything.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a great approach of, and that's exactly what my coach talked about was giving value first. Like, how can you know that you have a way to help them, a way to solve their problems. How can you give that value first before even asking or expecting anything back from them? So that's great first advice for people. So you've talked a little bit about power partners. Can you tell us more about what that is and how you might turn maybe a regular connection into a power partner?
Yeah. It's a slow process. I wouldn't say it's going to happen overnight, but if you start going to a networking group and going to events monthly, who are the people that, oh, you just like their vibe? Like you just feel like your sisters from another mister kind of thing. I don't know if that's the same, but I'm throwing that out there.
Close enough.
Yeah,
It's fine.
exactly. And so just finding the people that are motivated. They have a big goal. They are like going to tackle the world, and you want to be right next to them, rowing the boat, whatever you can do to align yourself with those people that are growth minded, they're abundant thinkers. So, there could be more than one marketing person in a room. There's clients for all of us. There's no, there's just get rid of that scarcity mindset where you just feel like, oh, my competition is here. Peace out, whatever. Your power partners could be the people that are doing the same thing you're doing, but they serve a different audience. So there's people that help find speaking gigs for people that they're agents. They get paid commissions, and they get people on stages for thousands of dollars. That's not me. I would love to partner with that person, because anyone that is at a higher level, I'll send them your way. And then vice versa. If somebody's not ready to work at that higher level, come back to me and I can help you and I can grow them into what you're doing. So I just think it's so magical when you can find your people. It's almost like having a board of directors. I think in the professional services, like attorneys and accountants are good referral partners in general. But some of the things that we do, some of my strategy calls are helping people identify who those key partners are and ways to build them. I get excited about that too, if you can tell.
So what would you say if someone came to you and said, I know that I need to build a referral network, but I don't like cold DMing people. I don't like reaching out to people first. I'm really nervous about it. I don't want to, make people mad at me. How would you help them figure out that process for themselves?
I would say use a buddy system. Can you take somebody with you to your networking event that can be your wing woman? And maybe they're the outgoing ones. You're a little introverted, and they can introduce you to every person in that room or the key people that you want to meet. So I think having somebody by your side so you don't feel like you're doing it alone is important. Bottom line, I think we all kind of need to do it, though. It's part of having a business. Like, you have to put yourself out there and be willing to be in front of people and share what you do, because that's where the magic is. And maybe it's not that format for you. Maybe it's talking isn't your thing. Could you find a different way to do it? I think it's all about thinking creatively. So maybe the written word is better for you. Would you rather write things and connect with people that way? Would you just like to only do social media and not meet people in person? Maybe it's only Zoom and not wear pants in real life. Whatever works for you. I think it's important to find your forum and your method of connecting with people in an authentic way. Maybe it's on a Discord channel. You just never know the different ways you can do that. But I really feel like instead of going after leads, connect with a network, and then build that network to talk about you and be clear on what you want them to say. So I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah. So great points. You've kind of tapped or danced around this, I guess, a little bit about in person versus online. And do you have one that you think works better than the other one? Does it depend on the person? What's your opinion on that?
I think it depends on the person and the style and the energy that they bring. I think you could have a great conversation. I talk with people all over the United States and I feel like I know these people. I feel like they're my friends after a 30-minute conversation. So I think you can really make an impact either way. So I think finding what works for you. Some people really want to be in person. Awesome. But just be very strategic about how often you do it, and be strategic in the way that you're getting output from it. So, be intentional, have that planning before, during, and after, so you know that your ROI is there moving forward. So I think it's just a matter of the approach that you use to get to the results. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
I like to suggest if you are doing an online event, where you see the gallery of all the people, like the Muppet Show, or you know, uh, the what is it, Celebrity Square, or
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about. If you can take a screenshot of all of those people and connect with them in a different way when you're off the call, I think that's really important. Hey, it was great to see you on this call together. Like, let's connect here. And just that's a way to build relationships. So I don't think it has to be all on social media. I think just being very strategic and intentional about how you use your time is
Mm-hmm.
the most important thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that makes sense. And I'm sure is a relief for some people to hear that they don't have to go to those in-person networking events, because those can be really intimidating if you've never done them before. Or even if you've done them a million times, sometimes they're really intimidating. So I'm sure that people are happy to hear that there are alternatives for that.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts around authenticity? Like, how important is it to be authentic when you're building these relationships and not putting on a face? And I guess the balancing act between projecting that confidence in yourself, but also being authentic to who you are.
This has been a struggle my whole life because, just having to be professional and wearing a blazer and going into the corporate, arena and talking to people. And then I can't be me, fully me, the jokester, having to, be proper. I'm not proper. I can be professional, but I don't want to be proper. So there's different
There's a
things.
reason you don't like HR people.
I know. But so I guess just figuring out, who do you want to be? What do you want people to remember you by? Just be memorable in whatever situation you're in. And it's not just putting a show on for people, but being authentically you whenever you show up and are interacting with others. And it could be as little as being vulnerable, like, hey guys, I am just not feeling it today, and people will relate to you because you're being real. You'd be
Mm-hmm.
surprised at how much bonding can happen if you cry, or if you're open to being scared or vulnerable or sharing a fear that you have. Asking for help, I think, is so important, because everybody is dealing with that at some point. We can't all just show up and be like, hey, this is awesome. I'm a radio guy and I talk like this. Oh, that's not me. I want to drop an F-bomb or so. No. Oh, Susie's going to tell a dirty joke or something. Yeah, that's kind of on brand for me. And sometimes I feel the pressure of having to perform, or, I don't have any jokes up my.
Mm-hmm.
I just show up and try to be witty and, make people feel like they're welcome, and just they can share anything. So just lean into who you are, I think, is the key.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so hard for people to do that sometimes, because sometimes we don't know who we are. We don't know who we are when we're not pretending to be someone else.
Wow.
And especially in the days of social media where we're trying to project our best selves. And so I think it's great advice to just kind of figure out who you are and figure out how you want people to perceive you, and then go in with that mindset. I am someone who has come to the realization that I kind of don't care what people think about me. And if we vibe, then we do. And if we don't, then we don't. And it is what it is. Like, I don't want to build a relationship with someone who doesn't like me for who I am. That's not worth it to me. So I very much am like you. I will come in and I will swear and I will maybe drop an F-bomb. I probably won't make dirty jokes, but I will have some dry humor that we can share together. So but I that also comes with age and experience too. If you're really young, if you're a brand new business owner, maybe you didn't work in the corporate world first, like, it's okay if this feels uncomfortable and awkward. You will only get there. The only way to get there is by going through it. So
Exactly.
don't.
Yeah. And a lot of times, the introverts are the ones, well, how do I'm an introvert. I don't want to network. Well, find the other introverts in the room. They're probably on the outside of the room that you go in. Maybe their camera's off. Could you send them a message on a Zoom and say, hey, I see you're here, but are you scared or can I help? Or just being real and being supportive of one another because we're all at the same event. We're all feeling the same things and it is hard. I like to have a couple things that I'm like if I'm driving somewhere, I'll be like, okay, what am I going to talk about tonight? At this event. Have like your favorite book that you're reading. Share a funny story that happened to you, something embarrassing. So just having something ready to share with somebody else, I think you can find common things. If it's a book, a podcast, oh, I love heavy metal, whatever it is, find something in common with them and it's more relatable and it'll make you feel at ease. I always like to have something in my hand, like a drink, even if it's a bottle of water. It doesn't have to be alcoholic, but it's so much better when I do. No, I'm kidding. But a bottle of water, hold on to something. So you just feel like you have like a safety. I don't know what it is,
Mhm.
but just feeling like you're not like in a job interview. Yes, yes, okay. You know, it helps.
You have something to do with your hands really does
Yes,
help, I feel
yes,
like. Yes, yes. Calms the mind down a little bit. So
yeah.
so we've talked a lot about, making these connections, and you mentioned earlier that it's important to nurture them. So how would you recommend your clients or our listeners or watchers nurture these connections that they're making? And at different, is it different at different levels of connection that you have? What does that nurturing look like?
I would definitely document and track who you're talking to. Make sure if you're using a CRM system to maybe tag the people and identify, where you met them, the vibe that they gave you, something to jog your memory. Because if you're networking 30 times a month, are you going to remember every single person you talk to and what they do and how to talk about them? No, you're not going to remember. So documenting that some way and then setting up, the ones that you really gelled. This was a great conversation. Make sure right away that you're either following up on that, sending them a calendar request, like, let's get together next and doing it. It's great to talk about it, but if you're not on site, just connecting and putting it in your calendar. Let's meet for coffee. When are you available? Do it right away. Action is the key, I think, with the follow up and just having a
Mhm.
consistent system. So if you can automate it in any way, wink, wink, make sure if you have a meeting with somebody on your calendar, have a follow up email go out 2 days later and say, oh, I love connecting with you. Here's a little blurb about me. This is how you could help me. Who can I introduce you to? Kind of, and just, you know, share information with one another and just consistently put it on your calendar to follow up. And you'll be amazed at how great it is.
Yeah. And speaking of systems, I have my CRM set up for like the intake, and then I track all of my actual partnerships in Notion. And so that I can go in and easily see like, oh, I reached out to this person on this date, or I haven't reached out to this person in a while. I should check in with them. Or they asked me to do this thing for them, so I'm going to go and do that for them. Maybe they have something coming up that would be helpful for my audience, so I can go in and share it for them. And then for your suggestion for follow-up emails, I actually have an automated email after my networking events that says, it was so great meeting you. Here's who I can help. Who can I connect you with? And I've gotten so many replies from people being like, oh, this was a great email. Like, I'm so happy to meet you. Like, it's just such a great way to keep the relationship going. And I also like when I'm doing my networking calls, because mine pretty much all happen on Google Meet at this point. I'm not really doing in person because I'm moving and it's complicated and whatever. But so they're all in Google Meet. So I automatically have Google Meet record all the meetings, transcribe it, and then create notes from it. And then I can include those notes in my Notion dashboard
Yeah.
of here's what we talked about, here's what this person does, here's what, we promised to each other or whatever. And it's just so easy to like automate that whole process so that I don't even have to think about it.
Ugh.
And then if I really wanted to go crazy, I could set up reminders every month for each person to say, hey, have you reached out to this person? When was the last time you talked to them? Just kind of checking in. So there's a lot of really great, fairly easy ways to automate a lot of these things that you're talking about. Even if you just use a regular CRM for your customers, you could still use that same CRM for networking. You don't have to have a whole separate one. You would just tag them differently, maybe have different workflows for them.
Yeah.
So I don't want you thinking that what Susie is saying is like this big burden of like, oh, I've got to do all this extra work. No, we have systems to do a lot of this stuff for you. You do not have to make it a huge time commitment. So just a couple of system things I wanted to throw in there for people to make it seem a little less intimidating.
I love it. That's so good. Yeah, so helpful.
So, how do you, speaking of having it being a lot of time or a big time commitment, how do you recommend people figure out how much time they should be spending on this networking and finding power partners and things? And, how does it compare to what they're spending doing all of their other time in business? How much time are they spending relative to everything else that they're doing in their business, I guess is the
Wow.
question.
And that's, I think, $1 million question too, because I think it differs for everybody. What I would suggest is don't ever stop connecting and networking, because you may find that there's a famine all of a sudden. Like, where did all my clients go? And then you don't know even who to connect with right now. So making sure you're just nurturing, I think will be a better process during your whole business landscape there. And now I lost my train of thought because middle-aged, love it.
So the question was, how much time
Thank
should
you.
they be
Thank you.
dedicating to networking?
Yes. So it depends. It depends for each person. But if you could do maybe 1 hour a week, would that work? And I guess, buffer it. So if you have to drive or if you have to prepare or, follow up, just allow yourself some time. I talked to a lady that did 300 300 hours of networking or something, just some crazy amount of networking. So sometimes it worked for people. I'm networking, I feel all the time. I feel like it's all the time, but there's certain times when I need a break. I need to be introverted. I need to regroup, or maybe I'm not feeling well, but maybe I'm going on vacation. So I think it's just, you'll have to trust yourself, but track the hours that you're spending and the ROI you're getting from each of those opportunities. What's coming out of each networking event you're attending. So I think that's a key too, looking at the analytics of it.
Well, let's dig a little bit into that more. So what kind of metrics should we be tracking in terms of networking? Is it time? Is it number of connections we're making? And how do we measure that ROI?
That's a great question. And I think it also depends, because some people will want to have a goal. Like, I want to talk to 3 people, at this event. Okay. So are you tracking your goals? Are you tracking those connections? Are you tagging them? Are you, following up on them? So it kind of depends on the level that you're putting in it, but definitely the time spent, the quality. I think if you can, almost like a lead scoring system, for sales, can you track the networking on different levels? I like to use dating references with all of my things behind the scenes. Do you want to date them again? Do you want to, go out to lunch with this one? Are you ready for dinner? So just having a system in mind to rate the people and the quality. And then, who are maybe setting a certain number of connections per year, or, have a goal. And then each month, how are you getting to that goal? And how are you nurturing it? How many calls are you having per week in networking, or connections after the networking? I think it's important to track all of those things and determine, what is the customer acquisition factor? How many connections do you have to make until you get one sale or get a proposal or whatever? So figuring out what it takes, how many people it takes to get someone to buy from you, I think is important as well. That's part of the ROI.
Yeah. And I think it's also important because then you can track where the connection came from. So you know what you should be focusing on versus what you shouldn't be focusing on. And another way of sort of, I don't want to say automating because it's still a person, but another way of sort of making this easier on yourself, or the way that I do it, is my VA actually finds people for me to network with. And then I vet them. He doesn't reach out to them for me because I want it to be real.
Yeah.
But he actually goes through like Instagram and LinkedIn and finds people that I, match the criteria that I give him. And then I decide if I want to reach out to them and if they're good networking partners and if I want to make that first step. And not everybody responds and not everybody wants to engage, and that's fine. But a lot of this networking is kind of a numbers game, especially when
Oh,
you're doing it online
it-
and cold DMing people.
yeah.
So it's really helpful to have someone else doing sort of the heavy lifting, and then I just come in and make sure that it's the right fit and then write my own message to them. So it's very authentic and very much coming from me. So just another
Oh,
idea for people if they're thinking like, oh, this is a lot of work. I
yeah.
don't know if I have time for all of this. Like,
Yeah.
that's another way of helping yourself do it.
Absolutely. And I also think like tracking how much money are you spending on networking events and how many memberships are you in and why
Hmm.
are you in all of is it worthwhile? And I think a lot of us do that at the end of the year, in preparation for the beginning of the new year. Like, what do we want to invest in this year? Where are marketing dollars going? So it's the monetary part as well. So yeah, but I love
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
saying. That's so smart. Having a system that somebody does that for you. Love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's hard because he doesn't have the same sense of my own business as I do, which
Sure.
is why I vet them and everything. But it's such a time saver
Yeah.
to have someone do that first step for you. So definitely recommend people look into that if they are interested in doing this, but maybe not spending all their time doing it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Love it.
So I do have one final question for you,
Okay.
but before we get to that, I want to thank you so much for being here. And I really appreciate having you on here. Did you have a free gift for our listeners and watchers that you wanted to offer?
I do. I have 7 tips to networking, and I covered a few of them, but I dive a little bit deeper into them on the giveaway. So yeah.
All right, great. So I'll make sure that I include that in our links in the YouTube description and in the podcast show notes. And where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
I'm really hanging out on LinkedIn right now, but susiemoon.net is my website. So you can find me there, and wherever I show up on social will all be linked there on the website.
All right, great. Again, I will include all of those. So, final question for you.
Yeah.
What final piece of advice would you give someone just starting to build their referral network? What's the most important thing that you want them to walk away knowing and thinking about?
Yep. I think be open to the possibilities of collaboration and aligning yourself with the right people that have your values and also are growth minded and want you to succeed. And when you have that support system and that the people around you, anything is possible.
Yeah. Yeah, great advice. And also, I would add to that, don't be scared because
Oh,
everybody's in
yeah.
the same boat. Everybody's nervous. Everybody's worried. Like,
Yeah.
most people are very nice. So don't let yourself get too much in your head about it.
Absolutely. Yes. That's real
Yes.
true.
Well, again, Susie, thank you so much for being here. It was wonderful speaking with you. And thank you all so much for watching or listening. And I will talk to you guys again soon.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks. Bye.